Yay, it's here, sweater weather, and time for fall decor. So let's see if we can turn some thrift flips into some cozy fall decor. The first thrift flip is a rolling pin. I love rolling pins and they are a common thrift store item. I think I make one for almost every season, and this is my new fall version. I'll be using a pouncer, and I'm going to apply 4 or 5 different colors because I'm trying to match the background color in the decoupage paper that I'll be using. I used a pouncer and I added the different colors to the rolling pin, and then I would use the pouncer and try to blend those colors together. All the colors I was using, they were pretty dark, so I also added some white to try to just lighten up the blend. This is a fun project to do because I don't think there's a right or wrong way to blend the paint colors. I just continued adding colors and pouncing and blending them together until I thought it matched the decoupage paper. And once I got this far, I realized I was missing green, so I added some green and continued to blend. Right in the middle of the rolling pin, I put some white because that's where I'll be applying the decoupage paper. And it's always a good idea to apply your decoupage paper over a white background. If you've watched any of my videos, you know I like to use this ruler that gives the paper a nice uniform torn edge. Now, full disclosure, I have been working on this video for probably a month because life just got really busy. Anyway, someone left a suggestion, like see right here where I'm working on that little edge trying to tear it off. Someone left a comment and said, why don't you just flip the paper over and then you're not working on the little edge. You have the big edge that you're tearing. It might make it a lot easier. So in the next time I use decoupage paper, I will be doing that. But here I was still doing it the difficult way. I'm using Mod Podge from my decoupage medium and plastic wrap to smooth out the paper. And once the paper was down, I went around all the edges with some Mod Podge. And then I just needed to go into that small section that was painted white where the decoupage paper did not meet, and I just blended the colors together to match the outside of the rolling pin. And once the decoupage paper was dry, I painted the handles in burnt umber, which was one of the colors I used in the blend. And then to make my rolling pin very fancy, I decided to use a mold with some leaves on it to go around the rolling pin. This is the Falling Leaves mold by Redesign with Prima. And I painted it in Fusion Bayberry, one of my favorite greens, and it's always easier to paint it before you put it on the project. I used Tite Bond Quick and Thick. I tried to get off all the extra glue, but this glue does dry clear. And then once the clay was dry, I went in and did a little touch-up. I added an embellishment to the handle, and this rolling pin, my fancy rolling pin, was done. Next, I'm going to make over this tin can that I thrifted. It's a lollipop tin, and it holds 100 lollipops. That is not paper on the can, that is part of the can, so I didn't have to remove it. Big plus. The first thing I did was spray paint it in a black flat spray paint. That's just my base color because I'm going to go over it with Dixie Belle Patina Spray in the color Iron. And now for this project, I'm not doing full coverage and I'm completely leaving the section where I'm going to put on a new label. So how this works, you put down a coat of paint, you let it dry, you do a second coat of paint, and then you spray it with the patina spray. And as you can see, that yellow is really bright. So I went over it again with some more paint. And this time I'm going to take my paintbrush and I'm just going to kind of drizzle the patina spray over the can. And when I was done adding paint and the spray and paint and the spray, this is how it finally turned out. And I was happy with this. I think it looks the perfect amount of rusty, but you'll have to let me know. And have you ever used the Dixie Belle patina paint and the yellow spray? It's pretty intense. The other two, blue and green, way more mild. Here I'm just sizing up the decoupage paper that I'll be applying to the tin. This is Pumpkin Path Farms by Decoupage Central, and I'm using some watered down Mod Podge for my decoupage medium. And I forgot to turn on my camera when I was applying the decoupage paper. So here it's applied, and now I'm just sealing it with the watered down Mod Podge. And I also painted the bottom of the tin in a matte black. I'm adding a little embellishment to the tin, and this fabric I purchased from Hobby Lobby. And here's how my lollipop tin turned out. I love this paper, but I'm also very fond of pumpkins. Pumpkin pie was my husband's nickname for me, and it's also my license plate. The next thrift flip is this little wooden carrier. I've had it for years and I was just about ready to redonate it because I've never done anything with it until I saw these little jars at Walmart. And they fit perfectly in my little wooden carrier. If you know what that carrier's for, please let me know in the comments. I used DIY paint in the color Firestarter, Monet's Garden, Liquid Sunshine, and Summer Crush. I didn't want to have brush strokes, so I used a pouncer to apply the paint. And when the paint was dry, I used a damp cloth to wet distress each jar. And because it's also a chalk paint, I needed to seal it, and I used clear wax and then a dark wax. I used Waverly Antique Wax just to deepen up the color of the wood. And for a little more contrast, I used a dark wax just along the edge of the wood to deepen up the color even more. This was such a simple project, and it really is, I think, one of my favorites in this video. And to finish it off, the only thing I did was add some homespun fabric to each of the jars, and then I added some dried flowers. And here's how everything looks together. I love these little jars. I like them like this, and then I like them individually. They're just too cute. Anyway, I'll be going to Walmart for some more. Next up are these two tins that I thrifted. And I'm sanding the inside because they're pretty rough. I'm going to be repainting them, and I don't want those marks to show through when I repaint. And fun little note about these is that I didn't buy them one day, and I kept thinking about them, how easy they would be to flip. So I went back the next day and they were still there. And this flip will show you how a little bit of paint and a transfer can make a huge difference. Now, the paint color is not that different. It's called Acadia Pear by Fusion. The tray is tin and it has this fluted edge, so I did have to take a little bit of time making sure I got the paint down in all the grooves. Next, I'll be using the Dried Wildflowers transfer by Redesign with Prima. There's a lot of individual flowers in this transfer, so I'm going to cut them apart and figure out my best layout for each tray. And this wooden stick comes with the transfer, and you just rub and rub a little more and some more And then you take the carrier sheet and this is called burnishing, and you just go over the whole transfer, and you just want to make sure that everything is down. When all the transfers were down, I sealed it with a matte sealer. For the second tray, I decided to mix it up a little, and I went horizontal with the flowers. I sealed the second tray. And then I applied Waverly Antique Wax. And I only went around the edge of each tray. And here's how my tin trays turned out. Now, I love these because these are my colors. I love these colors. But what about you? Do you decorate in these colors for fall? For my next project, having a paper cutter like this helps. I used non-permanent double-sided tape, an assortment of thrifted books, and this paper pack. I like these paper packs because the paper all coordinates together. I just picked out an assortment of paper that I liked or that I thought would look good on the binding of a book. I cut the paper to size to fit the books, and then I used the double-sided tape. So it's an easy way to use any book. You don't have to paint it, and you can reuse the same books for any holiday. And I don't know if you noticed, but I think I used the books in almost every aftershot on each project. And because the tape is non-permanent, it didn't damage the books. It didn't hold wonderfully, but it works. And I can change the paper out for Christmas. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know if you have a favorite project. And if you liked this video, hopefully you'll like this one too.